Imagine, you have a printing press that allows you to create money out of thin air. A lot of money. A lot of money. And for that, you get nothing. Trillions of dollars. Hundreds of trillions. Numbers with 12 zeros. Created out of nothing every year by a single country. Now here's the question you've probably been asking yourself. Why is it that when your country starts printing money, it leads by hyperinflation and economic collapse? But when the US creates trillions out of thin air, the whole world says thank you and asks for more. If you want to know the truth that they won't tell you in economics textbooks, this video is for you. Like and get ready to dive into the most closely guarded financial secrets of the modern world. Today we will reveal how the invincible empire of dollar hegemony works. You will learn how did the US build a system that allows it to print trillions of dollars and not pay for its mistakes? Why the whole world is forced to finance the American economy? What would happen if the dollar lost its status tomorrow? And which countries already preparing for a new world order? Fasten your seatbelts. We're diving into the rabbit hole of global finance. Part 1. The birth of an empire. It all began in July 1944. The town of Bretton Woods in the United States. In a huge luxurious hotel, names echo through the halls: Morgan, Roosevelt, Churchill. The future of the planet is being decided here. Here the dollar is made king. All currencies are now pegged to it, and the dollar is pegged to gold. That is the rule. Whoever owns the dollar controls the financial ocean. But then comes 1971. August 15, a normal Sunday evening. Americans were watching television when suddenly the broadcast was interrupted. President Richard Nixon appeared on the screen. What he said in the next 20 minutes would completely change the global economy and give the United States a power that even the empires of the past could not have dreamed of. On that day, the US unilaterally abolished the gold standard. The global financial system based on the gold standard collapsed in a matter of hours. Have you ever thought about what that meant in practice? Until then, the US could only issue as many dollars as it had gold in its vaults. After that, it could print as many as the Federal Reserve wanted. A quadrillion. Infinity. And you know what's most surprising? The whole world just accepted it. Part 2. The dollar mechanism. But how? How did one country manage to force the whole world to play by its rules? The answer is obvious. The petrodollar system took over. In 1974, just 3 years after the gold standard was abolished, the US signed a secret agreement with Saudi Arabia. The essence was simple and ingenious. The Saudis would sell their oil exclusively for dollars, and in return would receive military protection from the US. Do you understand what that meant? Any country that wanted to buy oil, and that meant all countries, had to buy dollars first. The dollar became the new gold. And this is where the real magic begins. Imagine, the whole world is forced to keep trillions of dollars in its reserves. Not because they love America so much, but because without dollars they cannot buy energy for their countries. And who creates these dollars? That's right, the US Federal Reserve System, a private organization controlled by the largest banks. Part 3. Infinite printing. In 2008, Lehman Brothers collapses. Crisis, markets panic, Europe trembles, Asia has sleepless nights. What does the Fed do? It launches a program of quantitative easing, a clever name for a simple thing: printing money. In a matter of months, they create trillions of dollars out of thin air. It seemed like a disaster, but the whole world froze and accepted the new dollars as manna from heaven. The value of the dollar hardly fell. Every central bank happily took them. How is this possible, you ask? It's simple. Sheets of paper become global currency if everyone accepts them. The Federal Reserve and the US Treasury control the printing press, and everyone else has to buy dollars to survive in the global market. Have you ever been caught in a trap you couldn't get out of? That's exactly the trap the whole world is in. The year is 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic. The Fed creates another $4 trillion, just numbers on a computer. And again, nothing, no disaster. And what is happening with the US national debt? It is growing uncontrollably. $33 trillion in 2023. That is more than the combined GDP of China, Japan, and Germany. And you know what's most interesting? The US doesn't even intend to pay it back. Ever. Part 4. The Global Game. Former French Finance Minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing called it an excessive privilege of the US. The ability to borrow in your own currency, which you print yourself. What do you think happens when the US needs to pay off its old debts? They just take on new ones. They issue new bonds. They create new dollars. It's a perfect financial pyramid. And the whole world is forced to participate. China with its nearly $1 trillion in US debt. Japan, Saudi Arabia, Russia until 2022. They've all been financing the American economy. In fact, the whole world is sponsoring American wars, American corporations, American infrastructure. Even sweet donuts in American coffee shops. What if I told you that American military power is not the cause, but the consequence of dollar hegemony? Think about it. The US spends more on military needs than the next 10 countries combined. With what money? With money printed out of thin air. Part 5. Climax: the collapse of the system. But every empire eventually falls, and the first cracks in the dollar system have already appeared. The year is 2022. Russia is hit with sanctions. The West freezes Russian currency reserves worth about $300 billion. It would seem like a normal political story, but for the global financial system it was a moment of realization. Suddenly, everyone understood. The dollars in your reserves are not your dollars. They're US debts that they can refuse to recognize at any moment. And what do we see now? China is aggressively reducing the share of dollars in its reserves. India is starting to trade with Russia in national currencies. Saudi Arabia is considering selling oil for yuan for the first time in 50 years. BRICS is expanding and creating its own payment system. Gold is hitting historic highs. More and more countries are looking for ways to protect themselves from the excessive privilege of the US. Now imagine what would happen if the dollar lost its status as the world's reserve currency.
Americans have never, ever let their country down.
The American way of life, based on endless consumption, would collapse in a matter of months. Do you think the superpower would give up its power voluntarily? We live in unique times. For the first time in 80 years, we may witness the collapse of the dollar empire and the birth of a new world order. Or the US will find a way to reboot the system, perhaps through a global conflict, perhaps through a digital dollar and new technologies of control. Here is a question that makes you think. What if all modern geopolitics is just a struggle for the right to print money out of thin air? What if democracy and freedom are just pretty packaging for financial hegemony? If this video has opened your eyes to the hidden mechanisms of the global economy, please like it. This will help the algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to leave a comment. I'm curious, do you believe that the current financial system will last until the end of your life? Or we will see its collapse within this decade? Remember, whoever controls the money controls the world. But only as long as we allow them to.